Hey guys, welcome back. It's Pep. You're watching the Sentinel follow-up part 2 of my favourite fragrances from the decades. The first video I did was 8 of my favourite fragrances from the 80s. Today I'm going to do 9 from the 90s. Now I need to stress again that these are fragrances that I have in my collection, so I am probably missing fragrances that would be other people's favorites. So these are my favorites. I have quite a few from each decade, and I've narrowed it down to 9 for the 90s. I'll do 10 for the noughties, and I'll do maybe 12 for the teenies. What you'll probably notice as well is that these first 2 decades have quite a few designer fragrances in here, with the exception of the creeds that I've mentioned from the 80s. It's Bois du Portugal and Green Irish Tweed. There is another creed in this one from the 90s, and I think you'll find when I do the next couple of decades there'll be a few more niche creeping into my favourites from those decades. And I think it's probably just because it coincides with an explosion of niche perfumes that have come out in the last 20 years. So let's get started. Okay, so from number 9 I am putting in this from Animal. This is Animal for Men. This, even though it was released prior to Angel Men, gets compared to that a lot. This is very cheap. I have done a review on this one, which I'll link on this video. To me, it's a spicy gourmand, but it doesn't ever get too heavy in terms of sweetness. I think from memory, when I was describing this, it reminded me of a dry fruit cake, and it's probably not a really accurate description, but that was one of the images that comes into my mind when I wear it. It's lovely to wear. It's very, very cheap and still readily available online. The bottle is a bit, I don't know, I'm not crazy about its design. That's Animal for Men. It has lots of fans, and that's at number 9. Number 8 is another one I have done a review of. It's from the House of Yves Saint Laurent, and this is Opium pour Homme EDT version. Sweet. It's like, to me, a very classic sweet oriental. It has star anise. I'm just gonna spray some on. Spicy. Just a real, it's kind of a real classic masculine oriental to me, and it's probably not been surpassed in that genre by another designer. Opium pour Homme, it's got reasonably good performance. It's okay, and you can still find it quite easily. I haven't tried the EDP, but apparently the EDP is spectacular. Okay, that's number 8. At number 7, then probably what qualifies as, well, there's actually a couple of cheapies I have here in this list from the 90s. And this one, I think, really doesn't get talked about enough, and it's quite underrated. It's a really nicely made aromatic fougere. It's Cerruti 1881 for Men, pour Homme. And it's just a nice classic smell, classic clean barbershop smell, and it smells like quality. And for the price that you can get this at, I really highly recommend it, because it's actually got pretty good performance. I can get up to 8 hours in this. I think it's very good all season fragrance, and it really stands up to some more expensive types of fragrances in this group. So my number 6 is very similar in style to the 1881. I find this a little bit spicier as opposed to aromatic in the fougere style. I only discovered this year. It's been around a while, and it has its fans. It's from the Fragrances of Ireland. This is Patrick, and I have done a review on this one as well. Again, Fougere style. This one to me has a bit more spice than the 1881, and it's just it's also got a bit of kick to it, I think. And again, I probably would tend towards this in warmer weather, and I'm so glad that I blind bought this bottle, and it was a win for me as far as I'm concerned. It's cheap. I got this 100 mils for $40, and it's well worth checking out. That's Patrick from the Fragrances of Ireland. Okay, another one that can be had reasonably cheaply as well, from the House of Aramis. Another one I've reviewed. This came out in 1994. It's a tobacco, spicy, woody Havana. I'm running out of skin here. Oh, that cinnamon, tobacco, the woods. It's just still smells amazing. It still smells. It's old school, masculine. I think it's probably more a cold weather scent, but I can just imagine rocking this on a warm summer evening. And it's just, it really stands up. I remember trying this, the original version in the 90s, and to me it still smells the same. Now, apparently some batches don't have performance. This lasts all day on me, and I'm not sure what year this was made, but it's a current formulation, and I think some people have gotten bottles that don't perform on them. I guess I'm lucky. This is one I picked off the shelf, and it works for me, and it's got very good performance. So for the price, maybe it's worth getting. If it doesn't perform on you, I guess you haven't lost too much. That's Aramis Havana. Number 4 is from the House of Chanel. Came out at the beginning, right at the beginning of the 90s. It is one of their classic masculines. It's none other than Egoist. This is a current formulation Egoist. Apparently the vintage, as always, was fantastic, but I'm very happy with this version. It's spicy, sandalwood, cinnamon. There's a lovely rose note in the heart of this fragrance, and if you're looking at Chanel, you can't go wrong by starting with this in terms of masculine scents. That's Egoist. Okay, my next two I only have decants of, but full bottles of this one in particular are certainly in my future. This is my scent of the day today, and I have recently done a review on this one. This is from the House of Guerlain. I haven't had a lot of luck with Guerlain in terms of finding stuff that I've really liked, but this one was a winner from the start for me, and it's none other than Guerlain Heritage. I have the EDT, and again, it's got so many notes in it, but you get a fresh citrusy opening which moves into really lovely masculine floral heart, and then in the end you get great spices and woods, and it's just, there are aldehydes, it pops off your skin. It's just really sophisticated, classy, masculine fragrance, and that's at number 3, and only just missed out at number 2 position, I think, but that was because it is a fairly new one in my collection. So that's Guerlain's Heritage. Number 2, and probably in my top 2 creeds, along with Green Irish Tweed from the 80s. This is probably the favorite summertime fragrance for me, and that is none other than Millésime Impérial, released in 1995. Beautiful citrus, salty, woody, musky. It kind of is really to me the epitome of a warm summer day. There are question marks about, as always with Creed, with certain batches just not having any longevity. I found that the first couple of times I wore my decant of this, I found the same. It didn't last very long. I was probably getting about 4 to 5 hours on my skin. It's mainly a skin scent, but when I wore it in warmer weather, it seemed to just perform better and work better. You probably have to spray a bit more than you would other fragrances, but I'll tell you, the smell of this is just worth the extra sprays, and you know, this is one of Creed's best, Millésime Impérial. From the 90s, this to me will always be quite hard to beat as a favourite from the 90s. It was released in the late 90s. Up until then, it's quite possible that something was released that was this unique, but I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. Classic leather rubber tea, and it's none other than this little guy. I've got to get myself a bigger bottle, Bulgari Black. This one is the current version. It still smells the same to me as the original that I bought back in 1998. It was the first bottle that I think I chose for myself back then to buy. Other ones I had were gifted to me, and I just don't think I thought that there was any other smell on earth like this. I think this one probably doesn't perform as well as the original version does, but at the moment it's pretty cheap. I'm not sure if it's discontinued. I still see it around in stores in my area, quite readily available and very cheap. I think it's like, you know, you can get a 75ml bottle for $40 at the moment. But while it's around, it's always going to be in my collection, and to me it's one of the best from the 90s and one of the most unique from the 90s. That's Bulgari Black. Alright guys, so that's it from my collection from the 90s. They were my 9 favourite that were released in the 1990s. I hope you enjoyed it. My next one in this series will be 10 from the noughties, and I think you're going to see a few more niche fragrances in that particular list. I hope you enjoyed that one as much as I enjoyed putting it together. So I'll see you next time. Thanks guys.